with going forward and doing this. Do we have somebody who wants to start, maybe sharing one particular challenge that you've had? Yeah?
For us,
Do I have a microphone where I can...
maybe I try to
People?
speak louder.
Okay, that's good. You have a good voice. That's a good voice.
So, because we have to work with the U.S. office, so the time zone is very different. It's like 12 hours away, so that's the time gap.
So the time gap for you working with teams all the way around the world is really making it very difficult for you guys to collaborate and have any kind of scale across that broader distance of time.
And also, like for culture, like, because we are like Asia and they're Western, so it's like different culture, so we need to communicate or clarify more to be able to understand each other on the same meaning.
Okay, so they might say something and it doesn't mean the same thing to you at all.
Yeah.
And it's the other way around too. And so you got to be sensitive to that as well. Okay. Oh, very
so
good.
I'll let Arthur say.
Okay.
Forward. I don't come from the same company as her, but I have the same problem because my team is at Budapest as well. So and right now I have a dependency on the other team at the Budapest. So it's like my team can deploy if they cannot deploy. So we need to get to know in the other day that do you can deploy. So if you can deploy, my team needs to delay it for a day. It's just like this for a week right now. That's a quite problem too.
Okay, so deployment, other things are delayed for you. You have other challenges in that area as well. And that's communication based primarily?
Yeah.
Okay, and your same company?
No.
Oh, not the same company. Okay, different company. Got it. Okay, other challenges you guys have faced? Go ahead.
We have 4 features team, but we handling 3 products. So it's very challenging sometimes.
4 feature teams, 3 products.
3 products.
Okay.
And sometimes it's very hard to coordinate because people gonna work on features that might crash together. Then releases, which is every quarter release, who will merge in, and then coordinating is a big challenge.
So the alignment we talked about, that's really difficult for you guys. Keeping everybody in alignment. Maybe we'll do one more before I kind of go forward here. One more? Anybody? Go ahead.
I'm from XII, so my company is very big. We are not a software house, like building a product. So our IT department is more on support, and we have some part of our time that we need to work on project. So project is like building a new feature for internal users. So my challenge is that when I try to apply SAFe for our situation, we just use it at the portfolio management level, and our top management maybe planning for 12 months, in the next 12 months, we're going to have, for example, 3 projects, and they don't care about support at all.
So it's just a portfolio level?
Yeah, just portfolio level. And we don't know how to apply it to the lower level.
Oh, so the programs, you're not running the programs though? No, it's just purely the portfolio Kanban and that part piece of it?
Yeah, right now.
Oh, wow.
Only that level.
That's very interesting. Most companies, go ahead.
And the team is not like 100% dedicated to the project. They need to do like 50% on support, and maybe another 50 on project. And that percentage is flexible.
Right.
And if the support have a lot of problems, we may need to spend 70% of time. So it's kind of, we cannot 100% dedicate team. So how to use SAFe in this situation?
Right.
Do we need to reorganize the team, or what we can do?
So I think there's a lot there. I won't try to answer all of those questions at the moment, but I will say it's interesting that you guys are implementing portfolio in SAFe instead of program. Usually it's the other way around. Most organizations I've seen and others that I've talked to, they implement program and then they start moving to portfolio. So you've kind of, you're doing portfolio first, which is very interesting. I'm interested in how you guys did with that, and we can talk after about kind of the specific challenges you've seen as you're doing it. But that's very interesting. Okay, let's go into some of the points about moving forward as we start scale. Right? So we organize for work. So whether it's the ideas that we saw in Spotify, where we have our guilds and where we have our chapters, where it brings people not just in one silo, but you bring the practice across the organization, right? Or the idea, this comes from Mike Cohn's Scrum of Scrum, as well posted to XII, Mountain Goat Software, where you have a Scrum Master community, a UI community, maybe there's a test-driven development. So you have these communities, but the idea is that they cross the team so you don't end up having Agile teams that are just silos. So they're all working together. A very important concept. Roadmap planning, and this is the idea that you have, this comes from SAFe, where you have a PI, a program increment, right? But it lets you see what features are coming out in the next several months, and it lets you share this with your customer, internal or external. And a lot of people kind of give that up with Agile. They say, oh, we don't need to do that kind of planning, but people actually want to know that you're doing something, you've got some idea. It's not set in stone. I mean, these, they say medium confidence, these are marquee features, and this is high confidence. However, they at least want to give an idea of what's coming, so people have an idea of what are those marquee features, what are the things coming out, and do we want to maybe make some changes around that. The only thing you're going to have a lot of certainty around is probably what you're working on right now in this current program increment, as we call it. Always transforming. So this is the plan, do, check, act, or plan, do, check, adjust cycle. Right? This is the Kaizen idea. You always have improvement. And I like, Shane was talking before about the idea of mindset. That's a book, actually, the name of the author. I appreciate you bringing it up, because I bring that up all the time. You have to have that Agile mindset, which is growth, right? You're always growing, you're always learning. This cycle says keep learning. If you stop learning, or you say, I won't learn, I won't try something different, you really can't do Agile. And for now, whichever way you call it, you need to learn. You must continue learning in order to be able to get better at it. Otherwise, you're just stuck, right? Like, okay, well, this is it. We won't try anything else. This is how we do it. And that's not agility. It comes from lean principles. Plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, adjust. We really need that. Kaizen, the idea also of having a center of excellence to manage change, right? So many people talk about this center of excellence. I think a lot of organizations morph their PMO to have an Agile center of excellence, honestly. But the point is that you're incorporating things like change management and coaching, a community like communities of practice, tools, what tools are you using to support you, what processes do you have, what training, and putting all those things together in your organization so that you keep getting better, right? So you keep improving. You don't just get to a certain point of practice and then get no better, where you just are no longer able to improve, right? So these ideas are in the idea of a center of excellence. And then the idea of Agile and DevOps together. So there's a different Auspicious Agile blog post recently I did on this, because there's a lot of question. I had a lot of question a lot of people have around what is DevOps and what does it have to do with Agile. Really, right, the idea is that Agile brings you from the user to the development side, right? So it bridges the gap between your developers and your customers. DevOps bridges the gap between your developers and your operations to actually make it work, go live in production, right? So basically the idea of all of the XP and Agile engineering practices plus the capability to operationalize, to launch something and make it work, this is DevOps. Frankly, a lot of this is a rebranding of XP practices, which I've seen for years, many of you maybe have seen before. This is not something completely new, but it is something very important to get from concept to cash, to get everything from the idea out to the marketplace. You can watch the video blog on that one if you'd like to see more. We're not going to do this one in class or in the session. It's like I'm teaching today. So as homework, write down 3 to 5 key actions that you'll take to start on Agile scaling program in your organization, or not. The reason I say or not, like the initial session that we had where Henrik said, do not scale if you don't have to, and that's something that is in my learning. I'm seeing that more and more, that often people start scaling. Oh, we got to scale, we got to get big scale, and you don't need big scale. You got a few small teams, and you don't need all of that. It's just a lot of overhead for you. Do scrums, and just keep going as you've been going, right? So think about how and if you're going to move forward at scale in your organization. If you're going to do that, take that backlog with you as the next steps and actions you can take as takeaways to today to continue learning from today's session in your organization. So what are you going to do? What's your backlog? You always want to have what are the things and your actions that you would do to do scaling. and then prioritize your backlog and take action. So this is the homework. Take that away. Think about what you're going to do in your own organization. In the longer sessions, I usually do this, but it's a short session. Okay, so QA, I will go in a second here and answer any questions. This is my contact, and also I'm going to hand these out. These are a micro-learning course that I published on a learning platform, so please try them out. They're free. You can just log in, load them on iPhone or Android, and you can learn them. So basically, my contact is on LinkedIn. My blog's at auspiciousagile.com. I am at Twitter at auspiciousagile. YouTube, you can get the whole playlist of all the different videos that you see, the ones I prepared for the Agile Scaling series, and the micro-learning course, which is on a platform called Nobi, which I just handed out. So please feel free to check that out. And as you have questions, I'm open to those. I think I've got 5 minutes. Yes?
About 4 years ago, I think Martin Fowler, could be wrong, but gave a state of Agile and said that the prevalent state was Placid Scrum.
Placid Scrum.
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with the article, but people basically practicing Scrum without understanding why and not getting the benefits that it can offer. Right? I think my own personal take is we've moved on in the last 4 years and that's become successful. But how would you think that SAFe, for example, might avoid falling into the Placid SAFe trap that Scrum seem to fall in, where people follow the practices, you cargo cults, and you're not really getting the benefit?
All right, that's a great question. I'll have to take a look at the full article, because that is definitely something that I see is as we're out in practice and someone has, they're a certified Scrum Master, or they've done a Scrum team, and they'll come into an organization and they'll say, well, you're not doing A, B, C, D. And the spirit of Agile is not really there. It's just that you're not doing A, B, C, D. So the agility's not there. And so you're just like in this trap of, well, did we follow the checklist? Yeah, we did. But are you really an Agile organization? Are you responding to your market? Is anybody happy with what you're producing? Maybe not so much. So can that happen with SAFe? Definitely. I mean, I think it's more of an attitude and a mindset, right? It's that idea of, shuhari, how are we improving on our practice? I think that's so much more important than the, oh, well, I've got the box and I've got the check boxes. I do PI planning. I've got my big room. We're going through, we got a release train. Are you Agile? No. I mean, as I said, there's a company I worked with in China recently, and, they were trying to do SAFe, but the mindset was so far away from this. They were just, this is how we do it. We will not do anything else. And I don't think you could have bought any scaling framework or any Agile framework for that matter, and that you could have made that company Agile. They were just so set in the way they thought of things. So I think it's so much more the thinking and the process than it is the framework. Take less, take SAFe, take DAD, take any of them, but if you don't have the right mindset, you're not going anywhere. I think that's a really key point, and it's great you bring it up.
So you said in your experience you've seen that kind of organization. So have you seen the organization that try to adopt Agile or Scrum and then they realized many years later that it's not fit for their organization and then they decided to stop and maybe turn it back to what they have done before?
I've seen a few. There was a company that I worked with in the U.S., and they had basically, over the course of 3 years, they adopted Agile, Scrum. They got rid of Scrum. They adopted it again. And the reason for that, actually, is because they kept on changing their CTO. So every new CTO would come in. CTOs don't have long tenures often at companies. And so every time a new CTO would come in, they would change the practice. And so when I was there, they were going for their third go-round of changing practice. But that's the leadership part we were talking about. A lot of times if there's not leadership commitment, we looked at the REST case study as well. It looks like leadership said, we were thinking this, but now we're not thinking that so much. So if leadership changes their mind, it could be really going well. And I mean, this can go back to an example that I have from back when I was doing traditional practice early in my career. I used to work for XII back then. We used to do big projects with big companies. It has nothing to do with Accenture, it's just the way projects were done back then. But one of the projects I was working on, basically, everything was being done right. The teams were working really well, they were working really hard, they were getting great, work and results done, but the leadership had overlooked something so fundamental. Basically, their company, the software they were working on got bought by a competitor. So you can't keep customizing something that belongs to somebody else. right? So if the leadership is not in alignment with what you're doing and they're not leading in the right way, as the talk we had this morning about how leaders fall into this thing, then it's not going to play out well. You really have to have not only teams that are doing really well, organic adoption, but the leaders need to be, in alignment, giving good vision and supporting it, and making sure it's successful as well on that side. So I think that's what makes a difference in my experience. And am I out of time? Thank everybody very much. I'll stick around to any more questions.